So we're going to talk here a little bit about, transformation versus innovation theater is the idea. And, we'll start just by introducing our panelists. So maybe each of you could just quickly introduce yourselves. Just go this way. Caroline, you want to go first?
I'm Caroline Chan. I am a vice president at Intel, responsible for our 5G business, especially 5G going into enterprises. So any of y'all looking for a 5G network, let me know. Got those to sell. I'm based in Dallas, Texas. I am a Longhorn, but I am a parent of a Rice grad, so I pay a lot of money for this. Where's Joey? You owe me a drink.
Okay, it's Silvia Mendez. I'm from Enel. I'm responsible for the scouting and startups and SMEs in the East Coast of the United States and Canada for Enel. I'm based in Boston, but we have a partnership here at Wintown Labs Houston. So, Houston is really familiar to me. I'm super happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi. Yes. Yeah. My name is Konstantin Osypov, and I'm scientific advisor, chief scientific advisor in Halliburton, and I'm representing a new organization, kind of innovation organization in Halliburton, which is pretty new, like a startup. It's called Computational Sciences and Engineering for Energy.
Great. Well, thank you all. So the first question I just want to ask, kind of big picture, what are some strategies for scaling corporate innovation across a big company, right? What are some best practices for open innovation? Who wants to take a stab at that one?
I'll take one for the team. Intel probably as a semiconductor company, we always have to get ahead. When we don't, somebody's going to come in and compete. So the way that we start is typically somebody take a tiger team and really getting this incubation charter, right? So I've started 2 businesses inside Intel. I'm on this private network, a new one. So for the last 2-3 years, I essentially took a team with a free, like there's no P&L responsibility, number one. You got to come up with build an ecosystem, build a valid use cases, develop a TCO model, and how you go to market. Because all of that thing, without that, none of this. You don't have ecosystem, you're not going to scale. Intel ultimately is a semiconductor company. We write software, we build the silicon, but we don't put the final system together. But you got to have blueprints. You got to identify your market space, and you got to have a group of people willing to go with you. So that took about, this is probably going on, I was running a regular business, but on the side, I was given this charter. And 3 years later, this year, I have a $100 million P&L I had to fulfill. And to scale, I repeat, you got to have an ecosystem, you got to know market, you have to have a go-to-market channel. So you don't know it, but some of you are going to become my go-to-market channel after this session. So, and then you take P&L. And that is really the way to scale. At the end of the day, it's about revenue. It's about bringing a good margin revenue business to a big company. Otherwise, no one's going to pay attention. You can only do innovation for so long if you don't have a business return. At least for large Fortune 500 companies, that's roughly the way that I would go about doing it.
Yeah, in the case of Enel, we follow clearly a venture client approach, meaning that we do not invest in startups. We are expecting just a win-win collaboration to become their industrial partner in a way. And it works. I don't want to say this is a successful open innovation model because it depends on many other factors. Probably there is not one unique answer for that. But I believe what is relevant behind that is to have an open innovation strategy really close to the strategy of the company as a whole, and to have clearly embedded the processes and the organization structure in this open innovation model, based on our experience, right? And I give you one example. Years ago, we updated the procurement process because startups and SMEs follows the same procurement process as large companies like SAP, Oracle, Vestas, which is absolutely ridiculous, right? And right now, we have a fast procurement process. They are able to sign a contract in less than 1 month. And also, it's a fair play because, I mean, the pain point for the startup, especially at the very beginning of their existence, is the treasury and the cash flow. So, I mean, in our case, it works. We have more than 600 POCs active worldwide and more than 125 scale-ups. But I believe, I mean, our model is quite binary because other than collaboration, some M&A operations apply. But there are many other open innovation strategies out there that probably works as well. So,
yeah, just my example might be a little different. That Halliburton is oil field service company, and as I said, just our kind of innovation organization. We are scientists, kind of. And dealing with kind of how we can help energy companies to produce better oil and gas, or kind of now all the CO2 sequestration kind of projects. This is what we are innovating on different technologies for, in particular, kind of how to make it more efficient. And in my domain, we are mostly kind of looking at subsurface characterization, kind of what, and developing software to characterize subsurface to better perform these projects. So, and this is what a long way from kind of research, from innovation, from ideation to develop, for example, software that will deal kind of with a lot of data for this characterization. So, and then this is, yeah, that is very important kind of to have this vision to go from to understand the business, kind of what is important, kind of how we can make these processes more efficient, and then to innovate ideation and to create the value chain, kind of to go from kind of idea to the software product.
No, thank you. Silvia, I want to go back to something you said. You mentioned working with startups. Obviously, working with startups is very different than working with Microsoft or IBM, but it's an important part. I know of the hubs at Enel, and obviously it's important in the big picture. Any advice about the best way to productively engage with startups and bring them into the business?
I mean, what I can say here, we don't follow random innovation in the sense of we are starting the process from the problem statement, and then we tackle this need, I mean, with different startups and SMEs. We have learned from the past that, I mean, it's perfectly and totally fine to go outside, to go out there, pick up and choose some solutions, but then when you introduce this solution to the business unit, you say, I mean, they are killing it, it's super cool, but they say, I do agree, Silvia, but we don't need it. So at the end, the combination between this need and timing, and behind that, the sense of urgency is absolutely relevant. So use case, and use case. I mean, the more specific is the scope of work, the more successful is going to be the scouting process.
Can I add something? We're in the midst of doing this now. I don't know if can y'all hear me? Okay. So one of the problem with 5G is unless you graduate with a RF degree, nobody writes application runs on 5G. Everybody writes application that run on your iPhone, your Android, nobody does. So what we wind up doing, when we knew we were going to have to start this private network business, connectivity just means attracting a bunch of software developers to write software for you. So I started by reaching out to folks. So there is a 5G Open Innovation Lab up in Seattle. We partner with Microsoft Azure. We partner with T-Mobile, who has a telco background, but we need a cloud guy. We partner with VMware. We partner with Dell, the state-of-the-art servers and the future of the compute platforms. And we partner with NASA because we need someone to come in and give you the requirements to drive it. And internally, we ask every board, the board, every founding member put up $500,000 for operating costs. But we have set up a VC sidecar fund. Startup needs money and they need technology. So us, that group of companies can provide technology, but ultimately we can't provide that kind of money that VC can bring. So startup cannot be successful unless you give them funding and you give them technology. And each of the founding members take a goal to consume, work with certain percentage of the startup. And that is a need, that's much like, just back to what you say. Just because you have a technology doesn't mean you have a market. And us and Microsoft and so on will probably one of the better ones to tell them, the conduit to say, this is what the market needs, right? And then ideally we'd like to bring guys like Costco and some of the enterprise that has really come in and said, this is what I need. If I need application that runs on connectivity, this is what I need. You got to provide that kind of environment for startups, or you're gonna have that death after 2 years, 3 years, and funding's gonna dry up. You just have to be very pragmatic and see what makes them successful. I totally agree with you. Good idea doesn't mean good market, doesn't mean good go-to-market channel, does not mean a mature ecosystem that will go with your technology. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I can add that in Halliburton we have like so-called Shark Tank. So we we also kind of screen kind of and
so
have competition, yeah, for yeah, that is a very effective model. So we have very good kind of cases, yeah, in this relationship.
Another thing that we had talked about, and I just wanted to ask, how do you do data-driven innovation? And I want to clarify, not innovation in data-related technologies, but how do you track and quantify innovation happening at the company? Is there a good approach to that?
Okay. I mean, I think it's absolutely vital. If you don't measure what you do, it doesn't exist. So measure, analyze, improve. This is the process. I mean, data is gold. And the large companies and the open innovation models are not an exception here, right? So, I mean, in our case, it's absolutely relevant. We have centralized all the data related to the function, meaning that scouting, source of scouting, connection with the startup, go-to-person on the startup side, go-to-person on the business line side, POC, how much money we have invested in the startup, if it's a scale-up, where, who, for what. I mean, and we try to, in a way, to use this data to make better decisions. I mean, at the end of the day, this is the relevant thing. And not only that, because we are getting from that the pulse of our own tendency. This is absolutely relevant. I mean, if we are increasing collaborations with renewable team in the hydrogen part, if we are stable on the Enel grid part, if we are decreasing the collaborations in this and that part. So, I mean, from my view, it's absolutely relevant.
Yeah, just to measure kind of like innovation, we as a scientist, like we have like patents kind of as a good measure, and also like this what how to protect IP, but also important is that for us also measure that, as I said, that when we develop a product, like we see like what is the return on investment in science and what will be the business impact out of kind of the whole kind of innovation chain.
Yeah, I think I said I agree. We count number of innovation ideas. I'm not talking about startup. I'm just talking about internally inside Intel. At least in my division, we do count patents and we count that. But at the same time, one thing that was very interesting is that we also count failures. If we don't have sufficient failures, that means we never actually try hard enough. We just go with the safe. You know, this is already a revenue business. Okay, let me pivot a little bit, but that doesn't drive innovation because AI, ChatGPT happened because somebody thought of it. So we do everything that Silvia you said and Konstantin you said. We also count. Did you try hard enough? Kind of the benchmark. I gotta say, with the economy today, that probably didn't weigh as much, but back in 2-3 years ago, that was actually a statistics we track.
It's a good statistic. I have a couple others, but want to see if anybody in the audience has any questions. Anybody want to ask anything? Don't be shy. Alex.
Curious about Caroline saying you had some internal startups. How do you insulate those against the organization wanting to, because startups and large organizations work very differently. It's, and you'll have all these people coming out of the woodwork. Shout a bit more.
I'll repeat the question. So, to Caroline, you have these startups within your organization. How do you insulate those against all of the people coming out of the woodwork to say, oh, hey, you can't do it that way, or our process is X, and blah, blah, blah. And that kills innovation and kills startups. How do you, and actually, it probably works for all of you, how do you all insulate the startups that you work with from that?
I can say that inside Intel we have something like a Shark Tank, but you actually propose ideas. If you get funded, you actually separate out from your P&L business. I think they gave you I forgot how they give you, maybe the funding is good for a year, and then you go to another, you meet some milestone, you get additional funding, but you're shielded from your normal, Intel's called OKR. You're shielded from that. You measure solely based on that, but you're given a finite time. But that you have to do that. Otherwise, your day job always going to ruin you. So, yeah.
I think that wraps up this one. So thank you all so much for your time and your thoughts. And